Well, welcome everyone. I'm here to present our next speakers. Shari Lungmani, who is a senior lecturer at PolyU ELC and the coordinator of the university-wide writing and reading requirements in class area requirement subjects and the project coordinator of a government-funded interinstitutional collaboration project on literacy in the disciplines. She has also worked on several large-scale technical teaching development and language enhancement grant projects in the past and has given invited in keynote speeches in Hong Kong, London, and Shenzhen. Dr. Esther Tong is a principal lecturer and the division head of the university and oversees the implementation of the writing and reading requirements at CPC PolyU. She was the recipient of CPC Dean's Award for Outstanding Teaching Performance Achievement for 2014-15, FST General Education Outstanding Teaching Award for 2017, and HKCC Lively Teaching Award for 2019. She was the lead researcher of a funded project on adjunct English across the curriculum institutional model. They're going to focus on assessment of disciplinary writing in a Hong Kong university and present a case study review. Okay, I am turning the floor to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Radost. It has been nice talking to you over the past few days. Today we are going to, let me share my PowerPoint first. Okay, so Esther and I will be talking about the assessment of disciplinary writing at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Today we will be talking about the English writing requirement as a formative assessment, and we'll talk about the policy and the implementation as well as the underlying principles. To demonstrate how it works and its effectiveness, we'll be analyzing one case together with you, and we'll talk about the impact on stakeholders. And at the end, we'll be concluding and talking about some implications and how you can consider applying this to your situation. So. English writing requirement is a graduation requirement at our university, and it has been implemented since 2012. All undergraduate students need to complete it, and they have to take general education subjects which have English writing requirement integrated into them. And these subjects are offered by all 8 faculties and schools in PolyU. So the English writing requirement is a general education subject. That means that students need to take this subject outside of their chosen discipline, which means that they are novice writers in the subject that they have taken. You can see that students from engineering can take a philosophy subject, and then they need to write a genre such as philosophical dialogue. Or they can write project proposals in biomedical engineering, or they can learn to write, make a plan for disaster relief or case studies. It's a collaborative assessment. So subject teachers are required to collaborate with the language teachers so that the support for discipline-specific assessments can be designed. And revision in response to the feedback is also required. So the feedback that language teachers give, students must take action on them. So the scale of this program is quite large, as you can see. Within one semester, we can respond to work of almost 4,000 to 5,000 students and give feedback to almost 9,000 scripts over a year, apologies. And we engage with subject teachers, up to 100 subject teachers over a year, and up to 80 language teachers are involved in giving feedback to students. Because the scale is large, many English language teachers are involved in giving feedback to the students over the semester. So you can see that this is a process which starts at the beginning of the semester and ends with the students submitting a final paper to the subject teacher at the end. So the first draft is 700 words. Students are given a video orientation, and then they receive a feedback report, which is genre-based. And for the second draft, they receive grade as well as further feedback. So you can see that since this program is large scale, we have automated quite a few aspects of it. For example, the feedback action points, which are genre-based and developed in collaboration with the subject teacher, are action points are provided in Blackboard, and teachers can click in the relevant action points. This ensures that the feedback that students receive is genre-based and specific to the assignment that they are working on. Teachers, of course, need not select the action points that we have written. They can also provide students with their own action points, but the aim is to make sure that the feedback students receive is specific to the genre and to the discipline of the assessment that they are undertaking. For the second draft, students receive, which is longer. Second draft is 1,500 words, and students receive further feedback action points, and they also are offered optional consultations, the same as for the first draft. However, they receive marks out of 10 or 10% of the subject grade based on the amount and quality of extent and quality of the revision that they have undertaken. And the final paper is then marked by their own subject teacher. Let me show you how we evaluate the revision. So when students submit their second draft, we evaluate the revised draft according to this criteria, which has this rubric, which has 4 criteria: task fulfillment, organization, language, and revision. So task fulfillment is where the genre aspects come in, and as well as in organization. We also look at language and revision, how much revision and how successfully students have done the revision. So this rubric ensures that we look at all aspects of student performance when we look at the revised draft. We do not mark the first draft. We only give marks on the revised draft. This is how the rubric looks like inside the Blackboard learning management system. So teachers can select the descriptor that best describes student performance. And the good thing about this system is that the marks are driven. So teachers don't have to think what grade to give. This system will calculate the grade and the mark out of 10 for students. So this is a bit of close-up. So there are radio buttons that teachers can choose for selecting a criteria. And you can see that there is mark here as well. Teachers can choose a mark that students deserve for that revision in that aspect. So let me now talk about the model of formative and dynamic assessment that underpins the English writing requirement. So you can see that we have used a B model where formative and dynamic assessment principles together underpin this support that we provide to students on their assessment. So the underlying principles for this program are assessment for learning, or formative assessment, as that Black and William and Carles have explained. So this assessment for learning is where we look at the evidence of student performance. We collect that evidence of learning and the difficulties that they have to see where the learner is. And then where the learner is going, we collect that evidence and provide that to the teacher. So the focus is on the teacher so that the teacher can be equipped to support the students. So where do they need to go? So looking at first draft, we prepare feedback report to see how we can help students to reach their goal. And we provide them with specific action points that they need to work on. Similarly, dynamic assessment also underpins the English writing requirement. According to dynamic assessment, assessment needs to be an integral part of instruction. And that is what English writing requirement is. We start supporting students from week 4, if not earlier. And throughout the semester, they receive feedback from us and consultations and other types of assessment support on the LMS so that they engage with the content as well as with us to provide them with the support. So they continue to develop through multi-drafts, successive drafts, they continue to develop their writing. So let me show you how it happens through one student's case. So you can see that the same student, when she receives, here we talk about May, she receives feedback on first draft. Then she revises it and also reflects on the success of her revision. She, on each of the feedback action points that she receives, she has to reflect. She also needs to reflect on how that revision has changed her as a writer, how she found that process or experience of revising her first draft. After that, she receives rubric-driven description of feedback on her second draft, and on the first draft when she revised it, and also the 10% grade. And after that, she receives further feedback, which she uses to write her final paper. So this is the example of feedback report on first draft. So you can see that the teacher has given very clear guidance to the student after identifying the issue. So it's not clear where your introduction starts and finishes. Later, I'll show you that introduction. And then the teacher tells the student what exactly she needs to do regarding the problem. The teacher also identifies some issues with linking words. It's a common problem in Hong Kong writing, that students overuse linking words such as moreover. And so the teacher is asking the students not to overuse these linking words. Similarly, the teacher has shown the student the way forward, where the student can go, how the student needs to develop the introduction. So clearly. So this student needs to, in the first draft, usually students submit an introduction and one more body paragraph. So also when the second draft is submitted, the teacher evaluates that the progress that the student has made based on the feedback report you just saw. So the May, she fulfilled all task requirements effectively. However, she still made intrusive errors, and not all of the revisions made were successful. She did try and make some independent improvements. So that was rubric driven descriptors that we just saw. In addition to that, the teacher gives a further set of action points to help the student improve the final draft. So you can see you have continued your paper in a satisfactory way and ideas have continued to develop nicely. You should consider the points below to expand. And then the teacher has again reminded the student that she has not addressed the linking word problem. Also, references, she has only used 2 references, which is good, but she needs to add more. Also, the teacher has given more guidance on how conclusion for this book review genre should be developed. There are 2 points that are related to conclusion. So how was the revision evaluated? How do teachers evaluate the revision to give 10% marks? So they give, for example, between 4 and 8 action points on draft 1. Then they evaluate the progress made using rubrics. You can see that May, we actually read these earlier. I read these earlier to you. All task requirements are fulfilled effectively. Organization is maintained and it shows a fair range of cohesive devices. Grammar is quite accurate, but there are intrusive errors, and vocabulary and style are appropriate and varied. So, but the revision is made, but not always successful. A small number of independent improvements have been made. So the teacher then, based on this, gives marks, comparing the uptake of action points, uptake of feedback, and also decides what further action points the student needs. So what do you think? So let me show you the the difference between 2 introduction sections. The first draft introduction is not organized at all. Remember, the teacher said he didn't know where this started and where ended. So you can see that the introduction in draft 2 is very well structured and developed. In draft 1, we don't even know whether she is talking about a book, but in the introduction section in draft 2, we can see in the first sentence, the main theme of the book is business of pop culture. So it's very well structured introduction, and you can see significant improvement in terms in response to the teacher's extensive guidance in the feedback report on the first draft. So what mark do you think the student received out of 10 on revision? The student actually did quite well. This student is now in week 6 or 7 and has a further few weeks to write the final draft. So the student has done quite well. And this student received 7 out of 10 on revision. And the breakdown of grades was like that. So revision was 6. Remember, she didn't take action on all of the points, but other aspects she received slightly better grades. So what is the impact of this program on students and teachers? We will also talk about teachers. On students, you can see, as I told you earlier, they need to reflect on the process of revision. And so you can see that this student has become aware of the cyclical nature of writing, that revision is really important. The student understands that even though they have done their best and they have done, for example, though I have done a comprehensive description, some details still need elaborating. And that's what this scaffolded model does. It gives students pointers as to how they can improve various aspects of their writing. The student is really appreciative of the various aspects. Similarly, the student has made comments. Different students have reflected on the awareness of their writing needs, particularly exactly what they need to improve, as I showed you an example. So I failed to analyze the topic critically. I will try to make improvements on it. Also, and they become aware of an area of challenge and how to address it. So the student is saying, maybe I can criticize the materials. I misunderstood the topic. I need to rewrite the whole report. And we accept that. Sometimes students completely rewrite their whole second draft. They become aware of the various aspects of writing and their own needs and their challenges. And they understand that the feedback helps them and makes it easier for them to write better. So subject teachers have also reported this impact of the model that we use. For example, some subject teachers said it lists out all the feedback report lists out all the key areas that students need to improve for the next draft. It is very thorough guidance for students. These are the areas that subject teachers reported to us were the strongest aspects of writing in the final draft. So they agreed that students understood content. They wrote good analysis of content. They followed guidelines. They followed the checklist with good organizational pattern. And they referred to publications as requested. They showed passion in writing the article. They fully grasped the article and the independent analysis. So this makes us happy that though the subject experts are happy with what students are writing. So let me show you the response to pre and post program survey data that we conduct every semester to show how students receive this program. So 270 students responded the pre-program, and 234 students responded to the post-program. So you can see that the orange bars are shifting towards higher level. So usefulness of multiple drafts, and after completing the EWR, students became aware of planning their writing. They became aware of appropriate style and tone. They became aware of referencing and writing good introductions. You can see the impact. Also, you can see that they became, that they think EWR is useful for their development as a writer. So at this point, I'll hand over to Esther to conclude this talk and talk about the implications.
Okay.
Yes, Esther, just maybe 2 minutes because we need some time.
Okay, no problem.
Yes,
I'm going to talk about the conclusions then. Can you see my PowerPoint? Okay.
yes.
So basically, there are three major conclusions of the study. The result of the study showed that this collaborative assessment is effective in engaging the content teachers, language teachers, and also students in the assessment for learning processes. And so this model, I think, is effective in extending assessment for learning practices beyond the English for general academic purposes into the discipline. And so the second one is actually very impactful in the sense that the model itself and can really facilitate the dialogic scaffolding between the teachers and learners. And through the 2 feedback reports, students' reflection, and as well as the essay consultation sections. So the last conclusion and that I'd like to make, and based on the evidence we've collected from the study, it's about being able to engage students in the uptaking of the feedback. And then they were responding to the feedback given by the teachers, and which is very important, and to students' academic writing. And so I think, and I will stop here for now and see if the audience has any questions about the study.
Yeah. Yes, they do. That's, I wanted to make sure that we have time to answer the questions. So
right.
The first question is, the person says, hello. How do you suggest starting something like this in our own contexts? What do you think we can do first? I guess the question would be in different contexts, maybe in a teacher context or different type of assessors. What do you think people should do first?
Okay, I think the important thing to realize is that the genre-based nature of feedback. So most important.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shari, could you unmute yourself? And the context is Filipino University.
Okay, yeah, because the program we run is large scale and we have a lot of support from the senior management. So the aspects that can be transferred to other contexts are that the collaboration with the subject teacher and designing support that is relevant to the students and the genre that they're writing, the assignment that they're writing, and going from ground up, analyzing student work, analyzing their subject documents, and designing support for them, and then training the teachers to give feedback. So the most important factor in the success of this program is that we give relevant assignment and genre-specific feedback to students.
Thank you. We have another question. What has been the impact on learner motivation and learner performance?
Very good question. Thank you. Esther, would you like to?
I like the question too.
Okay, so the learners, this program started in 2012 and it went through a lot of difficulties in terms of, for example, teacher workload and subject teachers initially not believing that language teachers could support their students and in their disciplines and their genres. It was the students who stood up and said, we want this. And this, in the 4-year review, after 4 years in the review of curriculum, English writing requirement was one of the most successful programs because students loved it. So they were highly motivated. They could see the support. In my opinion, they are lucky. They have so much support from us to feedback reports, and yeah, they're spoiled. Yeah.
Let me just read you another question. How has autonomy of the sample learner group changed? Very interesting question.
Could you repeat that? The autonomy?
The autonomy, yes. How has the autonomy of the sample learner group changed? I guess from beginning to end or after?
I think the whole aim of this writing requirement, which I didn't probably make clear, is to equip students to become better writers. So when they take the English writing requirement, the aim is to make them independent writers, for them to go through this process so that when they write another assignment for another subject, they know how to address, how to start, how to plan a big, large, extensive piece of writing. This is 2,500 word assignment, which some students do it for the first time in their lives. And so they understand that if they break it down into drafts, if they start early, if they refer to the guidelines and the sources, and they ask questions from their subject teachers, they can do it. So, yeah.
One more question, if I may. Could peer feedback be used?
Oh, so good. Such a good question. Initially, we, because this model is large scale and a huge number of teachers are involved in giving feedback, up to 80 a semester. So there was some interest in training peers to do the feedback. But Hong Kong is a second language context, and the logistics would be really difficult because we have this huge administrative process where we make sure that each one of the students completes this writing requirement. Peer feedback is useful when the writing is not an undergraduate requirement. The scale is small, so you can, train peers and put them in a writing center. But we have to control it, a lot of things. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you both so much. And I'm looking forward to finding out more about your case studies, and hopefully you embark on more studies. Thank you for presenting. For our audience, we'll take a 30-minute break, and exactly at 4 o'clock Singapore time, we'll be back with Taiwan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
Have a good
questions.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye. It's over.